The British 30th Corps has been stalled by Panzer Lehr, preventing any hopes the enemy may have of a hasty advancement. Despite this, they continue their progress towards Germany. Enemy movements indicate they will be attempting to cross over the Wilhelmina Canal at best. Panzer Lehr is to destroy the bridge prior to the arrival of 30th Corps. Do not fail me.
The house is in shambles, Mother says, without a roof. The family has relocated to Uncle's estate in Duisburg.
Then tell me, dear brother, what in God's good name are we fighting for? The fatherland is destroyed! We have no home!
Give up now and we fight for nothing! Do not let the American propaganda fool you.
Americans!
Ready to pass on orders.
American paratroopers, defend our positions.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Company of Heroes Operation Market Garden, where today we are at best defending against the American paratroopers, and later on in this mission we'll also be trying to stop the British 30th Corps from getting past best. The start of this mission is fairly straightforward, to be honest. It's just a hold on until the paratroopers have all been defeated. It's not actually a lot we can talk about here, because really all I'm doing is just holding on to the territory that I have got. Realistically, thinking back on it, rather, it probably would have been a good idea if I had brought the machine gunners out of their buildings and push them forward. Push them forward to kind of help secure the positions held by the Verling flanks. But unfortunately I didn't do that, so of course we lose quite a bit more than we needed to. But at the end of the day, it's not too much of a big deal. Really, all we need to do is spend time making sure that we hold the bridges and best itself. I did discover that we've got the munitions half track, which in this particular mission allows us to deploy Goliaths, and I do believe I start using those Goliaths to deal quite a bit of damage to the opponent. Not quite at the beginning because it's not necessarily needed, but I do use them to use the Goliath to take out bridges and such. Unfortunately, some of those bridges can't be destroyed, so it's really just a matter of holding on. Yeah. Holding on and then just flicking around to ensure that the territory... Flicking around to make sure that the territory that I do hold is, of course, held. I do try to set up sections of the base at the start here and get things upgraded so that I can start producing some of the more advanced units. Although I don't think I actually get a chance to use any of them. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I briefly look at grabbing a company commander, but realised fairly quickly that it's probably not needed, or not necessarily not needed, but rather at this point is too early in the game to kind of reasonably justify using the company commander. I think sections like here would have been good to have mortars, but of course, like, I didn't actually think too much about producing stuff. I just wanted to hold on to what territory we had, and where it started to look like we were going to lose it, I would start pulling certain units back, obviously with the hope that we'd be able to hold the territory for a little bit longer.
The enemy will never be able to match the efficiency of our support command structure.
Yeah, so here I tried to build the Panzer Support Company. Okay, I do start building it. No, sorry, is that the Logistics Company? Yes, I believe so. I believe so. Yeah. It really is just a case of constantly moving the troops back and forth, trying to clear up what the Americans are throwing at us at this current point in time. Making sure that they can't hit the base becomes another concern of mine, so I do move the machine gun team that's in that building back in an attempt to kind of help with that. And I start upgrading the Panzer Grenadiers squad size so that we can have more troops, because it's never a bad thing to have more troops. Or not necessarily have more troops, but have increased squad sizes, which means that we can overwhelm the enemy a little bit more easily.
We are now capable of larger squads.
There we have it.
Our brothers have fallen.
And I recognize this map as, I think it's the Holtwit map, where it's very similar to the Holtwit map, which is the Holtwit Gap, I think, which is a skirmish map in the base game of Company of Heroes, where there's there's two rivers with bridges on either side. You kind of have to hold those territories. I do believe that it is. This map is bigger, I believe. Which of course makes it a little bit more interesting. In fact, I kind of want to at some point. Yeah, no, I'll probably go see if someone's actually gone and created this map, because I think it would be a quite cool one to do, a skirmish round on. So I'm moving the Panzer Grenadiers end up being like a unit that I use to hold on to bits of, well, not hold on to bits of territory, but to kind of clear up troops where they start popping up. And I use it quite a bit very early on. And here we have the Goliaths. We're using those to knock out those bridges, just so that to limit the direction in which the paratroopers can come in from. It's always good to do that. Yeah, I think we lose that Verling, if I remember correctly. Like, there's not a lot I could do to actually make sure that it stays alive. Which is unfortunate, but sometimes these things happen.
Something's about to happen. I can feel it.
There we go. Knocking all the Americans onto their bums. I send one of the Panzer Grenadiers into the building to take it and secure it as a Fort HQ. But then I realised that the Americans are using that bridge closest to the HQ to get across and make attacks against it. Once they get there, their recoilless rifles, and they knock out the vertical flank. That's where we lose the second one, which is unfortunate, but it's something that happens. I spent quite a bit of time actually, I think, trying to ensure that this bit of territory is secured and that they can't push through. Unfortunately, there is only so much that you can do to hold territory, especially when the enemy is throwing an increasing number of troops against you. But, I mean, that's kind of part of the game. And being able to manage, being able to balance, you know, defending and kind of making small, subtle, sometimes subtle pushes against an opponent, I think is good. It's part of the whole micro and macro management of the game. I say this like I know what I'm talking about. I don't. I'm very much a turtle player. You've probably noticed this in previous series of RTS games. I will quite happily sit there for a long period, fully upgrading my units, instead of actually doing something that could be beneficial.
My men are eager to
Infantry reinforcements are mustering.
ready to respond.
They're in the perimeter. Our base is under attack.
Then the cowards decide that they want to attack the headquarters, not the headquarters, but I think that's the Panzer Command
The enemy is weakening
structure, but I'm not too sure about it. But he does get, he gets the satchel charger off, and I don't realise it until it's too late. Yeah, knocks all of them out. Knocks all of them out there, and of course this is where they start pushing through with masses of infantry, so I decided actually no, this is the point where I need to start pulling troops back. So I do that. The last remaining machine gun team I pull back to this, to the structure within the base, and I hope to kind of use it as a defensive point. I moved the Goliath up to that top bridge, just kind of as a deterrent from any Americans who think they might want to try and go through that section. Yeah, knock it out. Deploy another Goliath, which I do send through to knock out all of the paratroopers that are sitting up here, because I've got them pinned down, so I might as well use it. It really is just a matter of, yeah, no, there goes the Goliath. Moves in and just knocks out a pile of them right there. I do use the Goliath quite a bit as both as a scout unit and as an offensive unit to varying successes.
Let's go.
Panzer Grenadier reinforcements are mustering.
So that's best defended.
Brother, we have American paratroopers dropping on our heads. They have already taken the bridge here and secured a number of drop zones. To make matters worse, the rest of our Kampfgruppe is still en route from Best.
We must hold best until Voss and the troops from Falkensward arrive. Aldrich, mobilize the troops, neutralize the drop zones, and delay the 30th Corps until we can link up with Voss and the Kampfgruppe. Kampfgruppe, at attention!
Security pickets have reported 5 major drop zones in the area. The locations must be seized to stop any further paradrops.
So here I'm selecting the Luftwaffe Doctrine Company Commander. Selecting the Luftwaffe Company Commander. And the game is suggesting quite heavily that I start buying up Panzer IVs, but I kind of ignore it. Probably would have been an idea if I had done that, but mistakes are made, and you're going to learn from those mistakes, right? I do cut out a section of this, or a couple of sections of this portion of the mission, just because it's kind of repetitive how it's done. It's essentially push forward with the whirlwinds and use them to take out the infantry, and then move in with the infantry to take the capture points, as you'll see. Just because the whirlwinds are quite good at suppressing and then just chewing up the infantry. They have it pinned. 1 paratrooper down, 2 paratroopers down, 3 down. Now, unfortunately, machine gunners don't get pinned quite the same. They'll keep fighting back no matter what. So what I needed to do quite quickly was move in and kind of make sure, move the whirlwinds forward so that they couldn't fire on us. I don't do that with any quickness, well, not too much quickness at all. I start bringing the infantry forward in preparation to take the capture point and potentially also use them to help clearing out any remaining paratroopers. The other great thing about the whirlwinds is that if the Americans try to paratroop either more troops or try and reinforce the paratroopers, as you can see there, the whirlwinds will just take them out. Whirlwinds do not care. You're not allowed to come in. The area around the space belongs solely to the Germans. So yeah, no, I do use this quite a bit to kind of secure large elements or large swaths of the map. And there I'm detonating it, another one to kind of just make sure that they can't attack through that bridge. They have to come through either of the ways that I've already kind of designated. And there the Americans are trying to retreat. Of course, can't let them. But yeah, no, they don't get away. There's no way we're letting them get away with none of that nonsense. So yes, the second point I took with the help of the mortars, the mortar half-tracks that you can see there, and then I'm using the Goliath as kind of as a quasi scout unit. The plan, of course, is to use him, detonate him, kind of in the middle of a bunch of them, and knock out just knock out like a couple of squads. Probably could have used it to knock out the recoilless paratroopers, but I didn't. It's probably a mistake on my part. But that's okay. We then use the mortar half-tracks to attempt to squash the recoilless. Obviously they can still shoot if they want to, so I move in with the infantry to actually properly deal with that particular situation. Yeah, no, they almost take out the whirlwind, but we are successful in pushing them out. And so we start capturing this territory, just kind of in... we capture this territory just so that we've got more resources coming in, and there's less of the map that the opponent controls. I also use this time to kind of heal up the whirlwinds, because I'm using them very much like shock troopers. Well, not necessarily shock troops, but shock units. Just to ensure that we can have those pushes that we need, and that they happen kind of as they need to happen. I also have a Kinter card sitting just kind of down in the next to the munition point. Oh, there we go. The 30th Corps have arrived.
Hauptmann Berger, we've lost contact with Falkenswart. The 9th SS is unaccounted for. This means the 30th Corps is pushing hard for Best. We cannot risk allowing them to gain a foothold. The bridge must be destroyed. The Kampfgruppe Lehr demolitions crew has been stalled by engine troubles, but their transport will drop them at this location when they arrive. As soon as the pioneers arrive, wire the bridge with demolitions. What we need now is swift action. Destroy that damn bridge.
The enemy will be pushing hard across the bridge and maintain a secure path along Highway 69. If they are successful at advancing any of their command trucks past Best, the initiative will have been lost. Kampfgruppe Lehr will provide defensive support for the demolitions crew upon their arrival.
Confirm we are ready for action.
So here I do try to take the remaining drop points, knowing that if the enemy holds on to them, they can attack from the flank, which isn't really what we want or what we need. But what I also do is I try to rapidly advance my troops, and perhaps too rapidly, ending up splitting my troops in half. What I probably should have done is sent the entire force up, and then split the whirlwinds off once I was sure that I had secured the point that we needed. But of course I didn't, and so that kind of...
The demolitions crew transport has arrived. Get those pioneers to the bridge. Do not let good man die. The pioneers need support. Their work is delicate, and they are not easily replaced.
So as I was saying, that results in quite a heavy or quite a substantial loss in resources, because I didn't push all of the units forward I didn't use all of my units as like a concentrated force. I kind of split them in two, trying to accomplish two jobs. And of course what this means is that the job was accomplished a lot slower. If I had deployed the whirlwinds with the rest of my force, I probably could have gotten it all done in one swoop. So what I do is I deploy a Goliath once again to use it as a scout, and I push forward with the infantry to secure this particular point. And I'm using that Goliath over there as a scout, just because, you know, having a scout that's explosive is sometimes beneficial, sometimes not, but, you know, sometimes you never know.
That stream should lead to another entrance to the clearing.
Oh.
Take the men along the road.
There you go. As you can see, we kind of rushed in with the whirlwinds, and that itself was probably a wee bit of a mistake that could have been avoided, but unfortunately some things don't happen. I end up stuck at this point for a while, so I decided to cut it out because mostly it was just me losing more orders trying to hold this point. But once we have it secured, it was very hard for the British 30th Corps to push their command trucks further down the road. I have a half track, or I think a couple of half tracks, might just be one infantry half track, sitting there to reinforce the troops that we already have. And once again, using the whirlwinds to push forward and secure territory. And then swinging them around the side. I probably could have used the marauders to take out the buildings, but again, it's one of those things that I didn't do, but I actually regret not doing, because it probably could have saved us a whirlwind or two.
We need to wire it before the Tommies can cross.
Yeah, no, look at that. One down. And then I deploy the what are they? Fallschirmjäger soldiers, in an attempt to kind of use them to.
American calliope will do nothing but harass us. An opportunity presents itself. Silence it.
Yeah, that was another one of those things that I kind of saw and was like, hey, we need to deal with that. But yeah, no, once again they just knocked all of us out.
SD2 butterfly bombs have been deployed.
So I try to pull him out. Well, try to pull him out fairly quickly. I think he ends up getting healed, actually.
Damn tree line!
Unfortunately, we did lose one of the 2 pioneer squads that we were provided. That's not okay. We probably needed to.
Stand by for Wirbelwind anti-aircraft support.
Probably wanted to hold on to both of them, but we didn't, and it kind of results in the mess.
We have destroyed an enemy unit.
It's not really a mess, actually. I think I end up spending quite a bit of time deploying Fallschirmjäger infantry units to knock out that calliope. Yeah, I know you won't. Yeah, I was very much aware that the bridge needed to be wired and needed to be wired quickly. Unfortunately, there was only so much I could do. But another one of the things that I probably could have done is build 2 or 3 Panzer IVs, and they probably could have sorted most of the problems that I was having out fairly quickly. I didn't, though. I thought maybe I'd go with a half track with some tank buster grenadier infantry, which didn't actually quite work out in my favour due to the enemy deploying large numbers of tanks.
Yet again destroyed the enemy's armor.
However, I do make quite good use of the marauders, just because they're quite efficient at taking out vehicles, and clumps of infantry as well. It's something that you got to be careful of when deploying, or it's something that you can be aware of when deploying marauders. Is if the enemy tries to rush you with infantry down a choke point, you can quite easily take out quite a few troops, especially if if you can pin them down, or if they stop and try and start trying to fire on your units. I believe that's about it for that. Once we take out the paratroopers here, I do believe I start deploying the rest of the troops. I deploy the rest of the troops forward to secure the territory there. The pioneers, I hold the pioneers back because I'm aware that I've already lost a squad, and so of course trying to push forward with more would be kind of suicidal. And there I am sending the infantry half track with the Panzer Shrek armed Panzer Grenadiers up to where the Sherman Calliope is set up. of course, moving all the rest of my troops forward to secure territory. I forget to secure that one point, but I mean, it's not the end of the world. I think I end up securing it in the end. Yeah, there you go. So I think I'd split the Luftwaffe off to deal with that. Unfortunately, the heart rate does get destroyed, and that results in the Panzer Grenadiers getting wiped out as they tried to deal with that particular problem. So I'd switch to the Fallschirmjäger infantry and use their Panzerschrecks to kind of harass the Calliope. There's not really a lot to talk about from this point onwards. I spend kind of most of it. Just kind of running back and forth between the Calliope and everything else. If I had, I think it's 2 more company command points, I could have gotten the Junkers anti-tank aircraft, which would have been quite good at knocking out the Calliope, and perhaps also providing some suppressing fire for everything else. Unfortunately, we didn't have access to those aircraft, but it's not really the end of the world. We just gotta hold on to the bridge. Yeah, so this is the point where I realized, hey, that bit hasn't been captured. That's kind of important. Yeah, taking out that Calliope was a big thing. There you go, rockets incoming. Hitting the Marauders pretty heavily. Actually surprised I didn't lose anything there. But they're both kind of on low health, so I send out the Panzer Grenadiers to help with that. The Fallschirmjägers, or the Fallschir, continue to... I didn't actually want to go any further until I had taken out that Sherman, because unfortunately, as long as that Sherman was alive, there was really no way that I could be absolutely sure that I could hold the territory that I had. Well, not necessarily hold the territory that I had secured, but ensure the destruction of the bridge. So I just kind of continue harassing, letting the Marauders do the heavy lifting. I'm constantly keeping an eye on that Calliope, because at the moment it starts looking like it wants to shoot, I needed to pull all of my infantry back just to make sure that they couldn't take it out. I don't know if the assault rifles actually do increase damage to the vehicles, but I did upgrade I think a couple of squads with them anyway, just because it's like a useful thing to have. And I think that one takes it out. No, we're one more. Yeah, we know headquarters wants the bridge destroyed. There's a reason why I'm taking so long. It's fun letting the British try and continue pushing their troops across. Yeah, I think this is where
Men standing by.
it was maybe a little bit. It was a little bit slow on the ball there, but that's alright. Territories are all secured.
What's ready?
One more round from the Panzer Fürst takes out the Calliope.
That's it.
With the Calliope neutralized, we can focus on buying the bridge. Finish the job, Kampfgruppen.
Aufbruch.
There we have it. Then we need to push forward and we need to take out that sniper, because with that sniper there, it's very hard to lay demolition charges on the bridge. So I make a concentrated effort to take him out, essentially throwing away the Fallschirmjäger that we have there.
No time to waste. Let's move.
But once the sniper is down,
Go ahead.
it just doesn't take too much longer. Yeah, no, there he goes. I wait for the Churchill to make its push. And I do think I also build a flak down there, because I was just kind of like, well, flaks are always handy. Always good to have a flak. I think the plan had been to build a pair of flaks and some Verlings to hold any
Panzer Grenadier reinforcements are mustering.
any potential push back, but that doesn't ever come. I do hold off wiring the bridge longer though. I could have moved.
Go ahead, Commander.
Reinforcements are mustering.
Who's that weapon in
Could have moved the Marauders forward onto the bridge, or even onto the other side of the bridge,
It has fallen to our might.
but that kind of seemed like opening it up
Reinforcements are
to
preparing for
Use the
combat.
ground for callers.
destruction from the
Ready. Mortars moving out.
American paratroopers that are already up there.
Schützentrupp ready.
Surprisingly, there isn't actually too much resistance coming from
SD2 butterfly bomb will unseat the enemy.
Reinforcements we get.
There's not too much resistance coming from the American paratroopers on either side. I think that might be because I took out the drop zones,
Use the ground
so the
for callers.
AI kind of controlling the remaining paratroopers kind of just sat there. 'Cause what else is it going to do?
The English Dreckskerl must not cross the
I do accidentally stop the pioneers from doing their job, but remedy that fairly quickly. And of course, Marauders had no problem taking out that command truck. So it was really just a matter of making sure that the pioneers were defended, and then pulling them all back once we had that chance. I used the Fallschirmjäger that I've already got there to ensure that the Churchill doesn't push across too quickly, giving the pioneers a chance to finish their job and get away. And with that, I do believe, yeah, there it goes. Bang. Churchill down. And with that comes the conclusion of the best mission for Company of Heroes. Next time, I believe we're moving on to Arnhem, I think it is, with the Bridge Too Far mission. But that's all for next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, keep being awesome. I'll see you
The
around.
enemy has murdered our Fallschirmjäger brothers.
Marder here. Send your orders.